Why, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Innovantage Podcast, where business meets tech to bring you your competitive edge. As always, I am your host, Max, and it is my ongoing duty and my job to explore that edge between business and technologies. And today we're going to be talking about digital experience platforms. We're going to be talking about the route from Web 1.0 to the future of AI-supported web systems. We are going to be talking about business. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, and hopefully we will explore that route from very simplistic, very basic websites from Web 1.0 days into the digital future of AI agent and digital complexity. To help me on that journey today is Mr. Dominic De Cooman, who is the CTO and the co-CEO of Dropsolid, the digital experience company. People who know everything about digital experience platforms, if I understand correctly. So, hi, Dominic. Welcome to the show.
Hi Max, thanks for having me. Maybe just quickly introduce myself. So I'm Dominic. I built my first Web 1.0 website almost 20 years ago. It's more than 20 years ago. It must be somewhere 2003, 2004. And ever since evolving. Got involved in the Drupal community back in 2008, 2007. So it's almost been 18 years now, and I saw simple websites evolve into enterprise applications. That's also another name for a DXP, by the way. So a lot of people think like, okay, the DXP, is it just marketing to sell me a website? But in fact, it's actually another name for an enterprise website that's data driven. So yeah. And then I like back in 2015 I evolved more into the business side of things. So my company Dropsolid was back then 2 years old, and I had to shift to sales, marketing, finance, HR, everything CEOs do. um, then got back into the CEO role, then again now into co-CEO, CTO role, and who knows what the future brings. Good mix between business and tech.
Okay. That sounds very, very cool. I also built websites in Web 1.0 some 20-ish years ago, though that's where my technical proficiency ended, unfortunately, very quickly. I built those websites and then I moved on into business much faster. So I like that you still have that mix of both the tech expertise and the business expertise, and you're driving it forward. So can you tell a little bit about what DXPs are and what CMSs even are? So you've mentioned Drupal, and Drupal is a CMS as far as I'm aware, but I'm sure that many people who are listening to us might not be aware. So can you walk us a little bit through the history of the web?
Yeah, so when the web arrived, HTML was the way to put content on the website. So people were actually typing HTML and text. Then CSS came, a little bit of JavaScript, but yeah, then there was a need to have something on the server side. So things like PHP came along. And then with PHP, content management systems like Drupal were built. Like back in the days, I think 2003, 4, 5, like there were hundreds of open source CMSs around. Mainly three CMSs kind of evolved to WordPress, Drupal. You also got Joomla. It's still around. There's more CMSs, but let's say that they're the winners. WordPress kind of took more like the SMB side, the small businesses, and a little bit of SME as well. And then you got Drupal, who was with Drupal 7, also SMB, SME also, and large enterprise. And then it kind of took like the SME and the large enterprise space. And now it's getting back into it's coming down with the whole Drupal CMS initiative. And I think the AI is also going to be a really game changer in how the CMS market dynamics. evolve, but we can talk about that later if you want. But then finally, people needed, non-technical people basically needed to put content on the web, and that's how CMSs evolved. And then, the next step was, okay, but we want to have this content to appear dynamically. We want to use the data of the customer to make the content applicable to that person in that journey. So along came the DXP, where the core functionality is basically being able to go data driven. So a DXP, some people include the marketing automation, some people don't, but at least the segmenting side and the data collection side of the marketing automation is part of it. For me, in my definition that I use towards our customers, I think the marketing automation is also part of it, because your emails are just another channel, just like your website that you want to personalize and where you want to use the data of the customer. In its most simple form, I think the DXP could be just collecting the user data, like using in open source, you would use a system like Matic, an open source marketing automation that collects all the data of the customer and then segments it, and then you would use like Drupal to manage your content, and then use the segmenting and the content together to build personalized content. That would be like your really minimal open DXP. If you want to go further, you can add like a CDP, like for example, Apache Unomi is the only open CDP at the moment. It's an engine, but there's also an effort where also the interface will come, and a basic interface will also provide it in open source land. So what is a DXP? A DXP is basically data-driven content management, you could say that. And who uses that? It's mostly enterprises, small-time users who just want to put out their message, have a simple site, don't actually need all that complexity. But enterprises who often have many markets in many languages, in many countries, different brands, multi-brand, multi-channel, like using website, email, maybe an app, maybe applications, in-store screens, like you name it. Then you would need a DXP. I think that qualifies as a definition. If you want to know more, there's even more. Like Gartner actually has a definition. It also requires cloud services, like the whole thing. But in its minimal form, I think it's data and content.
Okay. Data and content aimed
Yeah.
at larger companies and enterprises who have a lot of data and need to produce a lot of content. I'm curious whether you know anything about where like low code and no code platforms fit into the whole picture, because I understand the evolution from Web 1.0 to CMSs like Drupal and then to DXPs, but there's also kind of a side branch of the low code platforms like Webflow, for example, or I don't know which ones are more popular than Webflow. But what do you think about those? Do they have a niche, or is it something that's, the marketing boys came up with?
I think that's more marketing, because if you look, in fact, what's low code, no code, it's basically allowing non-technical users to build applications.
Mm-hmm.
So you also would find that in Drupal and even in WordPress, where you got these applications where you can build applications with. And I think it's especially a platform like Drupal that's really good in that, because it has structured data. The whole data model, the way the database is structured, the API layer, like the entities, the fields, like how to structure your content and your data is really strongly built in Drupal, and it will also have its implications on the AI, but we can talk more about that later.
Sure.
Yeah, like for example in Drupal, if you want to build like a list, you get like your low code list builder. It's called views, to build views. That's what it says. So you can drag and you can select fields, like add filters, and you get like your mini application. Same with if you want to have a form builder with even programmable logic in it. You get the ECA module, for example. It's like um, an application builder, a flow builder, where you're driving different actions through a decision tree basically. So all of these CMSs to some degree have low code, no code builders. If you look at the real no code, low code application classes, like for example a Mendix platform or these type of things that are not really
Yeah.
content management specific. Okay, you also see them in on the enterprise level being used in the enterprise architecture to give the business user a way to build applications. And I think Webflow cleverly used that marketing to also bring the concept in content management into the picture. But basically, if you look at Drupal, it's super strong at no code, low code, but it's not branding itself like this. It's still branding itself as a CMS or if you go framework level to a content management framework, or like a good base for a DXP if you extend it with other tools. So I think it's more marketing to answer your question.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I feel that a lot of marketers and just content creators out there are finding the limitations of those no-code, low-code platforms. At the end of the day, like you said, a lot of CMSs like Drupal, like WordPress, they offer user creation without coding for a while. That's part of why CMSs came into being, in my opinion, right? Simplify the process of creating web pages and deploying content into the web, basically, right? So you don't have to sit down and code every single page and every single website on your own to simplify this whole process. Um, so how have you seen the needs of the users, of the clients evolve over years? Why do they need DXPs nowadays?
So there's a couple of business cases that you can make for the DXP. Like obviously operational efficiency is one of them, and then another one is better customer experience. That could also translate itself in better operational efficiencies, of course, because if your customers are served in a personalized way and they find immediately what they need, you'll get less support calls, your operations will run smoother. And then if we look at the content creation side, like not the end user, but the user who is building the experiences with the platform, giving them the right tools will also allow them to create better a better output. I think the AI is huge in that regard. We can talk more about that later, but in essence, every application is being used to somehow save money or create money on a business level. Now, how to make it tangible and how to make it feasible, there's a lot of there's also critical voices on the DXP that say like, no, you shouldn't go DXP. It's a monolith. It's one big monster. You're locked in. You will pay too much. You won't be able to customize it. Okay, that's one kind of DXPs. Those exist. They're more the legacy DXPs, I would say, evolved from legacy tech players that have a big tech stack and indeed built a monolith. If you look
Hmm.
at the open DXPs, it's fully composable. It's multiple applications, and then even the applications itself. Like for example, if you would look at the open DXP that Dropsolid puts in the market, based on Drupal, Mautic, and Unomi, that's 3 applications that you can swap out if you want. They're API driven. They can communicate to each other. Um, Yeah, MCP is also going to influence how these applications are working together. So that's interesting, but that's also another topic which maybe we can touch later. But anyway, inside these applications, like Drupal itself, it has a module ecosystem of at least 50,000 modules. So it provides a core, which, okay, you need a core, you need that structure, you need a certain amount of packages. I think the developers at GitLab like really coined it, like, because there was a couple of years ago the trend of microservices, API driven, like, also the cloud native headless, like the Mach trend really pushed, like, no, you have to go like full composable also on the application level. But they called it like, okay, you want to they called the monolith uh, a ball of a ball of mud, but the guys at GitLab said, like, we're actually really happy with our monolithical structure with our plugins, because otherwise what you get maybe a ball of distributed mud, which might even be worse, because there is a price to pay in managing the complexity of all these different kinds of microservices. And you have it on the application level, but you also have it on the application architecture level, how they talk to each other. And my expectation is that the enterprise architecture diagram is going to get less applications over time, especially with the AI consolidating it only in the strongest platforms. And you won't be having like for every service a different application, because if you don't have the overarching structure managing it, like, who's gonna manage all that? Like, who's gonna keep the knowledge in the enterprise? Who's gonna, if people change job, it happens all the time. Like, in the end, you have so many contracts, also the management around the contracts, managing vendors, increasing prices, adding new features, managing compatibility, flexibility. It can be really, really, really challenging. So yeah, the DXP has definitely its merit, because it's creating that structure, but also going too far to the other direction and make it like a full monolith, so that you only have this impenetrable block of code. That's also the bad direction. So I think the best is to have balance between the composability and the structure. So yeah, DXP is definitely worth uh, worth looking at it. Although for some cases, composability is also needed, but most enterprises don't get to win back the price of the added complexity. So that's why a DXP for a lot of enterprises is the right choice, especially if tech is not your core business as a company. If you're a government, technology is not your core business. If you're a tech company yourself, if you're Facebook or Airbnb or whatever, okay, you can go as crazy as you need to go to build a cutting edge. But if you're a normal business, if you're not a core tech business, then maybe buying some packaging is actually valuable, and that's where the DXP comes into the picture.
Okay. Okay. So then, what would you say is the future of DXPs? Will it all shift more towards monoliths, where there will be just, a couple of providers with their own infrastructures and you just work with them and there's nothing else? Or is it going to try and shift more towards that distributed microservices model where you have so many services and you have to manage them somehow? Or is it going to stay like kind of in the balance where you try to find the balance between a monolith approach and the microservices approach?
I think you're gonna have all of that, but the vendors that is going to be successful are in my opinion, the ones who can help you strike that balance. And I think the AI will also help you to strike that balance, because conversations I'm having now with CIOs, and also actually more with business people, is like, okay, we want to do projects, we want to bring in also the AI into the picture to save, to not only save budget, increase operational efficiencies, but also increase the customer experience. The first question is, yeah, the budget. And then if I look at the enterprise architecture diagram, and some of my peers told me, I think it was Volker from Voltspeed, he told me that at least every enterprise has 115 different data sources, applications who produce data. So that's a lot, and a lot of these services, like a lot of SaaS, is actually not so complex that an AI service cannot take over the value that it's creating. So what I'm thinking is that it's going to consolidate more in different layers. Like you got your database layer, your content layer, your experience layer, your infrastructure layer, of course. Like you got these main layers, and in these main layers, only the strongest application, they're probably going to pull in more and more of these little services floating around, providing value that the AI can change. And if the main layers can really communicate well using MCP, for example, and classical APIs, of course, yeah, that's probably going to be enough to deliver the value that needs to be delivered, and maybe even faster, with less budget, less applications, less complexity. So that's why I'm pretty bullish on the long-term future of an application, a CMS framework, a CMS like Drupal, because it actually has this robustness that allows you to build in the AI, and Dropsolid is also on the forefront of bringing the AI to Drupal. Like we're in the team, in the module, the Drupal AI module. One of the co-maintainers is at Dropsolid. Like we're doing a lot of contribution on the Drupal AI level. I came back from the Drupal Dev Days, which is one of the bigger developer events in the Drupal community here in Europe. It was last week in Leuven, and there was so much excitement around AI in Drupal. So you'll see in the next few months, you see a lot about that. And yeah, to come back to your question, the AI is going to help to strike that balance. And I also think open source is also going to help to strike that balance, because what we're seeing now is that open source and AI are really disrupting the SaaS landscape. Like SaaS that has not like a serious moat around it somehow is getting heavily disrupted. Like a lot of SaaS companies really focused on one specific problem, and I try to solve it in the best way. But now, you can just, with open source and AI, you can replicate so much of that value that these specific tools are bringing, that the customers, yeah, like, maybe I can just, get rid of this application in my enterprise architecture. It's less complexity, I save budget, and the service is being replicated in one of the layers using the AI in my main platform. So less headache, less costs, more efficiency, better user experience. That's what I think is going to happen in the next few years.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun. I'm interested to see where we'll find a balance with AI. And let's talk about AI, since we've been dancing around the subject for the length of this conversation, basically.
Yeah,
So as far as I'm aware, you're basically building Dropsolid to be AI first at the moment, with the focus
yeah.
on digital experience platforms, of course. So what does that mean? How does a company become AI first? What do you see the value of AI in the context, of course, of digital experience platforms and DXPs?
Yeah, so basically, last year I had an existential crisis at the end of the year. We actually had a really good year as a solutions company. Also, our DXP was growing, so nothing to worry about, you could think. But yeah, I just through the year and in my subconscious, I think it was all the way back in January last year that I heard first about agents back in 24 when I was at the cybersecurity conference. And then one of the experts was saying, like, like one of the biggest threats right now is agentic threats that are coming towards us. So it's like a small team of people, 3 to 5 people, that can deploy attacks as if they're like a team of 500 people, government, state level, state level sponsored teams. So now you get these teams using AIs, building AI applications with agentic frameworks to deploy these attacks. And I was like, whoa, that seems pretty serious. Like, of course, in my mind at that point, I didn't make the link to what we are doing with DXPs and CMS. But then going through the year, we also did an innovation project with our local government, sponsored this 300K to do an innovation project to explore how we can do sovereign AI. So basically, that came down to, okay, how can we add AI to the DXP and to our infrastructure, but host everything that's needed for it ourselves in a sovereign way, and also, get the data pipelining in place. That's how also we came across Sigli, uh, because you guys are really experts in getting the heavy lifting of how you do the data pipelining and the machine learning, and also setting up the LLMs, etc.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, through the year we gained that capability to host an LLM, to host an agentic framework, to feed it the data, to give it the context, and then yeah, the team started working with it. And then I think like the real trigger came in the fourth quarter last year, um, where like maybe a bit together with everyone, that like agents really became like a thing in the mainstream. But because we've been doing all that work, for me it triggered an existential crisis that I thought like, oh my god, this is going to be so disruptive. Like in 5 years, our services business will not be relevant anymore. Like I really could see that, like charging an hour, for a person, like that whole model,
Yeah.
it's gonna be really difficult to generate sufficient margins to have a nice, comfortable business. And then with the DXP, I kind of saw the same thing. Like, okay, like if this AI is gonna come in, like is it going to replace like a lot of applications? Like how do you compete to these capabilities, these added capabilities? But then, okay, I said, okay, what do we do? Either I sell the business, because that would be a good point. The business
Yeah. Yeah.
was doing good, so maybe someone would buy it, or um, you know, we do something with the AI. We were already doing something with the AI. We were already working with the machine learning to do the automatic segmentation in the DXP back in 2019 with Nick Veenhoff, our previous CTO, who's now a director at GitLab. So yeah, we were already somehow primed, programmed to become an AI company. So yeah, what did I do? I talked to the management team, I talked to the board, I talked to the dev team. We did like a big hackathon, and soon it became clear, like once all the are architects and strong technical people. Like in the beginning of the week, I would ask them like, okay, how excited are you? Like a lot of people were skeptical. And then at the end of the week, after the hackathon, we also involved like external people. So I know a lot of people from the startup ecosystem in Ghent, and I also questioned them like the AI. I questioned the AI startups like, how are you doing it? Like, what are you using? Like, what's the tech you're using? Like, what are your successes? What's difficult? What's not gonna work? And they also came into the workshops. I also, Frederik Waters, who was at Dropsolid, who actually told me back in 23, Domi, we need to start an AI company for real, man. We need to start. But I was like, Frederik, I already have a company. I have a, I have a, I'm running a solutions business with 75 people, and then I have an open DXP that we're growing. If it's too much, but then at the end of 24, I called them back, Freddy. You were totally right. We have to start an AI business. It's existential. And then after the hackathon, all the engineers, when I asked them, like, should we invest in this? They were like, if you're not going to invest in this, it's going to be bad. And they were like 9 in 10 excited. Like the skepticism was mostly gone. So they transmitted it to the other teams, who are still doing like classical projects, because it's not easy to disrupt yourself as a company. It's like you don't do it for fun. Like if you start doing that, your current operations are gonna suffer. Like you're gonna introduce new things, like new processes, new ways of thinking, new ways of selling, of marketing. So then in the end, we decided, okay, we have to split the company in two. We have to split the company in two, a solutions part and a product part. The product part is then now what we will see in the market as Dropsolid.ai, where basically our first products are the DXP enhanced with AI. So that's the first step. And under the hood, we're also building an agency automation platform to build these DXPs in an AI first way, to basically not build them from scratch, but to generate them and to generate on top of it. So why? Because, okay, if you do that correctly and you do that in a structured way, you can deliver much faster, can bring down your internal cost, you can bring up your output. But then, the whole business model changes from charging hours. Like it's gonna change to producing output for your customer, and your customer is gonna pay you for output. And how you do it, even if you do it with the little elves, the customer actually doesn't care. Whether you do it with how you do it, it doesn't really matter. But I think companies who will not be able to build like this will not be competitive to the ones who are building like this. And then, of course, the success of Dropsolid AI is heavily tied to the success of Drupal AI and Matic AI and Unomi AI. If you're an open DXP, you're leveraging these open ecosystems. We want to make sure that our contribution is as strong as possible that we can do in those communities. We'll first start with helping to get the AI to Drupal, because I think Drupal is uniquely positioned to become an intelligent digital experience in all freedom, open, sovereign. Sovereignty is big at the moment with what happened on the geopolitical level. Like you see a lot of critical infrastructure, government, like asking a lot of questions like, can we change? How we can we get off? How can we become sovereign? Okay, the answer to become sovereign, in my opinion, is open source and AI.
So
And
how
then
do you
of
do it
course
then?
yeah, how do you do it? Yeah, and then strong partnerships with companies, like what we've been preaching for years, building your open DXP so you have control of 90, at least 90% of your stack. We also sell a proprietary layer, but it's a layer, it's not a core application. The core application, the Drupal, the Matic, the Unomi, and now the AI in those platforms, and then even hosting your own LLM and even hosting your own agentic platform that can communicate with that, with companies that can do that, um, that can provide you the support you need to get this open source into your company, like embedded in your core systems. Get your architects on board, your internal teams on board. I think now, maybe not now, but like if you start investing in it over the years, you'll be able to, convert a lot of classical SaaS where you're locked into some cloud, you're not sovereign, locked into some application, that you can really bring that down to, yeah, to owning your core business again. So that's, I think, a lot of tailwind for open source, and the AI is pivotal. I also wrote an article on my blog about this. I think it was even last year, where I saw, like, agentic contribution, like AI contribution, is going to accelerate the levels of contribution that you'll see, because classically SaaS companies, how they make money, by front running, front raise capital, build, like build a better user experience, build better features than classical open source. uh, but now with AI, open source is catching up so fast, like there's all the window of winning back the money you invest as a SaaS company is super difficult, um so yeah, that also added to the feeling that there was something existential going on. So to answer your question, how do you transform your business? Step by step, but starting with the core first. Like, you really need to have leadership on board. You really have to have the tech people on board, um, to to spark that transformation. Um, and probably you won't get everyone on board. You can't save them all, but if you get like a critical mass within your company, I think if you want, you can transform. And we didn't wait to get disrupted, so we started to disrupt ourselves. Um so yeah, we'll see how it turns out, but it is risky. You start from going business as usual, managing as a P&L. You shift into a mode where you're a startup with a runway again. But if you
Yeah.
make it, your customers will be, very happy, because you will bring them like what they need to transform, because the same will happen in their industry sooner or later. Same with the employees. The employees will get upskilled faster, so at some point they'll have to transform anyway. So why not do it while you're already in a business, or get in couple of years get laid off, like in mass layoffs, because the business is not competitive anymore, and then you have to go reskill yourself at your own cost or at the government's cost. Then I think it's better to take go to, it's a bit of a harder route, but it leads to an easier life, while taking now the easy route might end up having a harder life. So, but it's not easy to make sure everybody's on board. It's a daily grind. But I think Dropsolid is a company that can do that, because we all disrupted ourselves constantly. Like, we never did only services, we also did a product. Like, we kind of got that into our DNA. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm confident that we could do it. And to top it off, I really wanted to test it if people were on board. We organized like an internal capital round so the employees could invest. Yeah, and they like, yeah, a critical mass actually did it.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's also a really good sign.
Yeah,
Um,
good indicator that
that,
the idea is
that's a good
worth
indicator.
investing. Yeah.
And it's a strong signal to the investors as well. Like I'm at the moment, I'm also raising for the Dropsolid AI.
Yeah.
And the investors tend to see it as, well, that's peculiar that employees are actually investing in the company. It doesn't happen that much. It's not that we given them shares with stock options, and no, they actually put money on the table. So that's a strong signal that, okay, we got at least a hardcore of people on board. um, and also I also talk to our most important customers, how they see the world. Do they see a world that's AI
Yeah.
first? And I was surprised how many, not in every company, but in lots of companies, there's a lot of pressure from the C level to do something with AI. you know there's a lot of pressure, but how? And yeah, the answer is like, I can't solve that for my customers on the company wide level, but I do can solve the problem on the experience level. Like, and that's what I also see where Drupal and Dropsolid AI is providing value, is like, if we can apply AI, this art, this new technology, this intelligence on the experience level, like make it maximum applicable. Because it's like electricity, but electricity, if you have electricity in your house, but you don't have any appliances like a fridge or a dishwasher or whatever, what's the use of electricity?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the same way, putting the electricity in the CMS, in the DXP, making it maximum applicable. Yeah, that's where we're aiming at, and that's why I'm so happy that we're on Drupal, because Drupal is just made for AI. Because of this structured data model,
Mm-hmm.
the core is built for it, to make it unlockable uh, on every level, like to create, like, all these low code applications can now be enriched with AI, because it's built API first. It's built so granularly, which did impact the complexity of the application before AI. And a lot of customers were like, yeah, but it's such a complex application, Drupal. How can we get over that learning curve? But now the AI solves that. It's not a problem anymore. You don't have to know the underlying complexity anymore. You just, like, I see the Drupal CMS version number 3, which will be probably released next year. Next year in the second quarter. The second version is coming in the fourth quarter, and then in the second quarter next year, a new one is coming. It's gonna be as powerful as you basically give it your marketing plan, and it will build your website. That's actually where we're going, in a structured way, not in a, like, all over the place. Because if you need some structure to manage that, but that's the vision, like, um, generate all the pages so you don't have to know where all the buttons are and where you have to click and all that. If you're a power user, you can still learn that, and there's also efforts to make that user friendly. But to generate the first version of your website, yeah, it's gonna be transformational in the way we're building digital experiences.
I, for one, am looking forward to that. That's basically have been my dream since I was a little boy, basically, where I started coding and I understood how hard it is to do a very, very simple website, to put it out there and to actually deploy it and then to maintain it and to update the information on it. It takes so much time, so much effort. And now we're at a place where it takes much less time and much less effort. I can still control a lot of fairly complex websites with different types of content being generated constantly and deploy it fairly predictably, very easily, honestly speaking. Like, comparatively speaking, it's still easy. But at the same time, if I was able to launch marketing campaigns like that, where I would have more control over the end products from the very, very beginning, and diversed very little resources to it, it would give much more flexibility to both me and my team and our clients at the end of the day as well, and what we are able to provide for them. As a very basic example, we've been experimenting with providing our clients with small proof of concepts during the pre-sale stage, basically where they come in to us with an idea and they tell us like, okay, we want, I don't know, an AI chatbot implemented into our customer service pipeline. And we don't really know what that means, but like you said, our C-levels are telling us that we need an AI. So we're trying to
Yeah.
do something with AI, but we're not AI experts ourselves. Please help. And it's much easier to show them the value of what it is you're trying to achieve by building a small proof of concept of, okay, look, this chatbot is not trained on your data specifically yet, but we've trained it a little bit, and here's how you're going to be interacting with it, and here are the limits of what you can realistically do with it. And it's fairly easy to do when you have, like, public or private even LLMs, like a local LLM that you can download and you can run, and then you just give it custom instructions. The length of the context, of course, is going to be very, very small, but for the proof of concept, it's good enough to showcase what it's capable of. And those kinds of solutions that bring value to the market much faster, I agree, are definitely the future as I see it as well. Though, of course, whether or not it's going to be the whole digital experience, especially for the larger enterprises, still remains to be seen. But we've talked a lot about, the theoretical side of it, how systems are built, how architectures look like, what the evolution is. I want to talk a little bit about the practicality of it. So if you're like a marketing, I don't know, department manager for, I don't know, like the University of Antwerp or something larger, the port of Antwerp, right?
Mhm.
Um, so you are responsible for like the logistics of one type of freight that comes in and comes out, and you need a new website that tracks those kinds of logistics. How will those future DXRs or AI supported DXRs help that particular person in that particular type of work, not necessarily them specifically?
Okay. I see where you're going. The example of tracking and tracing is like a specific software category. Website would only be visualizing what's
Sure,
happening.
sure.
But maybe I can give another example. For example, the University Hospital of Antwerp, which is one of, I think is the biggest in Belgium.
Hmm.
Um, like that's one of our customers. We've done a DXP for them. Like we're at the moment we're talking about, okay, can we make intelligent patient journeys? So basically, what are the numbers? Like they do like 800,000 visits a year of patients to the hospital. So it's huge. Like it's a machine.
Mm.
Like it's enormous. So even shaving up, like making that 1% more efficient, translates in a lot of money. um, and the patient journey spans over multiple applications, like the website where you discover, okay, so imagine you have something, yeah, you discover something, oh, something's wrong with me. Like, okay, you go to your local doctor, okay, he makes you an appointment with a specialist, you come into the hospital, you get into the flow. Like you maybe research in the website, you give your details, you get information, you can download something, all these different data sources. Then you have your electronic patient file, of course, where a lot of medical data is all your medical data is stored in it. All these things, they span they span multiple applications. So how do you weave that together so the patient is informed at the right moment, with the right information, so you get that patient journey as short as possible? Because in fact, there's another business case to make, and that's on the level of the government. Especially in the US, it's not so much a thing, but in Europe we have socialist capitalism. So basically, the state is paying most of the healthcare. Um, yeah, making that journey as short as possible saves a lot of taxpayer money. No?
Yeah.
So and that's perhaps the most important reason to do it. When we did the steering committee, there was also a professor in the committee who leads the cancer department, and he said, like, yeah, it's super crucial, like if you're in like a couple of weeks earlier, like the treatment is straightforward, you're cured. Otherwise, yeah, if you get into like a treatment resistant stage, um okay, or maybe worse, the one in between, where it's like not sure, you still do everything you can, but still yeah, it not only saves lives, but it also saves a lot of money, so getting that patient journey as short as possible, like if you would apply the AI on this, discovering when what needs to happen at what point, and then if the customer also has questions, if the customer also has questions during the process, because yeah, if you're going to like really heavy treatments, you have a lot of questions, you have a lot of emotions, if the AI is properly trained and properly connected, yeah, this can help to inform the customer better and reduce the load on the hospital, so they can actually accept more patients. um, they can actually, with the same resources, they can treat more people, so the whole system becomes more efficient, because of a better digital experience, which is intelligent. So um, yeah, I think it's gonna be huge, like intelligent customer journeys also in business. I was talking to another company, purely commercial. They do outdoor appliances, sun protection, etc. Doing 100 million, working with distributors, like the whole system, multiple countries, multiple languages, multiple markets, multiple products. Biggest problem is to drive the customer through the journey, drive them through. And yeah,
Hmm.
marketing automation systems are already helping, CDPs are already helping to do that, but it's in a pretty deterministic way. It's not really, at the moment. I think with the AI, it's gonna be really more on point. It's gonna be able to take into account a lot of parameters. Then another customer we have, the biggest publishing company in the Benelux, Lano Publishing Group. They do books. I think they have like 60,000 titles. Um, we're in this, like we did a DXP for them, collecting the CDP, and it's not unthinkable that we do an assistant that is guiding someone to buy a book, taking into account the data in the CDP, also other context data, like is it Mother's Day, is it Valentine, like anything. It could be anything, like could be, you know so many things are happening at the same time that a deterministic model, building manual segments, building manual flows, it's just impossible to predict what's going to happen and then anticipate on it when the customer has questions. AI can do that. So it's going to be huge on making customer journeys more intelligent. It's going to be so nice to be a customer from a company that actually properly deployed that intelligence on their customer journeys. Um, Yeah, and you can also see it a citizen journey for governments, member journey for nonprofits and membership organizations, like anything. Um, yeah,
That's a great example. Thank you very much. Very, very illustrative of the type of future that we may expect. And as a side anecdote, a little bit, I've been a migrant my whole life. So I was very young when my family moved to Israel, and I grew up in Israel. Then I moved away from Israel and I migrated to Belarus. Then I moved from Belarus to Lithuania, where I live now. So I've been through different processes of naturalization. And there are always 2 points where you're struggling. Point number one is, of course, the language. If you don't speak it locally, then it gets very, very hard to go through the hurdles of the legalities of things because every single government kind of expects you to speak its language. Some governments are better than others. So, for example, the Benelux region is very, very good into accommodating different languages. Some are very bad at it. But regardless, that expectation is there. And the second part is, of course, the process itself. How efficient is it? How understandable is it? Where to go? Who to ask? Which kind of documents? Where you need to file, and so on and so forth. And I believe that both of these have been successfully addressed by tech, generally speaking, throughout my lifetime. When I was young, it was very hard. You had to have a stack of papers, yay big. You had to take those papers. You had to take them to different people all the time. And then you needed to keep them safe. And if a fire breaks out, then you're out of luck and you're done. Nowadays, it's all very easy, very digital, especially here in this part of Europe. We have a very developed digital government. It works very well. And the next step of actually, having an AI agent, for example, that guides you through, maybe in your own language, and expanding the knowledge and expanding the understanding of what the process is and what you need to do is absolutely the future, I believe, because AI is
yeah,
already very capable when it comes to translating meaning rather than translating words, which was the limitation for many translation tools in the past. So now you can actually get what people mean rather than what they say, which is very, very important. And you combine the two into a whole, perfect digital customer experience. And yeah, I can definitely foresee myself living in that world. That sounds great. And of course, for hospitals and patients, the same. Like, if I can do that so much more efficiently, then it's only so much better.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, to kind of wrap up our discussion, I want to talk a little bit about the future. Besides what we've already talked about, you've mentioned AI agents several times and their influence on where you're taking Open DXP and Dropsolid, generally speaking. How do you feel like what's the best application maybe for AI agents moving forward, or where they will be the most noticeable maybe for the layman, where we will see the most amount of AI agents first?
I think it's gonna be everywhere in every application. Yeah, it's gonna be on every level, on the experience level, on the content level, on the database level, on the infrastructure level. You're gonna see agents on every level of every application. Um, there's a really good article on the Chief Martech blog, on how, on it's called, I think it's they call it the iPass, like, these applications like N8N,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
basically there you see them competing against LangChain at the moment, so, um basically these rule based build these builders, like
Hmm.
how to chain agents together, and like all of that. um you're gonna see some of that, I think, in every layer. That's also what we're doing in the Drupal community as well. Like, there's actually a framework in it to build agents on that level. Now it's all like it's a bit of a hybrid strategy, I think, at the moment. There's also the MCP initiative that allows to bring in agents from other ecosystems. That, for example, you're building agents on your company level with something like LangChain or N8N.
Yeah.
But it's not unimaginable that you're also building on your experience layer as well. Because it can have direct access to other parts of the application. So how would I make it's like a nervous system, like you could have like the the main nerve going through the spine. That could be like your main application, AI application system with where the main agents live. But then once the nerve goes out to your arm and to the rest of your body and goes into finer and finer and finer nerves, you could imagine that agents that have more access to different parts of different applications. So to make it more applicable, like to really make the intelligence available, like finer grained, you could see that happening as well. So it's a bit unclear how it will play out, but um it's probably going to be everywhere. There's going to be intelligence weaving into everything, probably.
Mm.
Or at some point it's just too fine grained that it's not making the difference anymore. Then it will probably be like some, yeah, can still be deterministic code will also be around. It will not disappear. Like it will not
Yeah.
disappear. Just the same that I think that the unless AGI comes and it can do everything, but that's that's another scenario where where you tell the AGI run the world. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Okay, but we're not there yet at this point, so
Not
it's
yet. Not
probably
yet.
gonna be more. It's gonna be more. Yeah, on a local level, maybe on a general level, maybe. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's probably going to be very ubiquitous, where it's going to be everywhere. And probably there are many facets of life where agents are already deployed. I can think of rudimentary sales processes. I can think of customer service processes and jobs. I can think of some, again, rudimentary recruiting processes that are probably already being done by specialized AI agents in the vein of N8N, for example, like you mentioned. Definitely so.
Yeah, sometimes it's just not complex enough to justify the use of AI. It's like there's
Yeah,
only three possibilities. Okay, there's only three possibilities. It's if else, and you're done. But once there are like hundreds or thousands of possibilities, yeah, use the AI for sure.
yeah, yeah. And as soon as AI becomes, reliable enough, because a very important point that you mentioned that we didn't really discuss is the sovereignty of especially
Mhm.
larger enterprises, especially now in Europe, where basically everybody uses the same three cloud providers and all of them are American. And nowadays that becomes a business risk more and more and more and more. And that's just the cloud. And there are so many services that so many companies use, and their infrastructure is built on top of that. So a lot of them are going to be looking to move away, I feel. But move away to where? AI seems like a very logical step, but at the same time, it needs to be reliable. It needs to reproduce the results, in all spaces, in all the times, for it to become the go-to for solving any business challenge. I think that's going to be next. Like we already see, and I've already had people on the podcast talking about ways where you can limit hallucinations, where you can channel specific AI features and limitations to specific business cases. And that's just going to be expanding more and more and more and more until we see, well, AGI, I guess, where everything will become AI,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah, the
Well,
sovereignty and also the governance is very important, and that's why the whole you can't just let loose a bunch of agents in your ecosystem and start to make your business fully autonomous, because you'll still be liable. You know, the dream is that you wake up in the morning with an inbox where your agent reports, we deployed that marketing campaign and it yielded so much more conversion. But in a nightmare mode, it could be that you have 5 claims in your in your email inbox where you are getting sued because your agent did something really creative that you didn't expect it, and you offended a bunch of people with your latest marketing tactics, and they're suing you. So yeah, the governance is going to be really important, to make sure the AI stays on the rails, because you'll be liable, you know, and that's why I also think like a good combination between like a solid system that is already really auditable. Like if you're using open source, if you're using, like, let's say you have a Drupal for your enterprise experience layer over your organizations for all your different websites, you already have that. You already have that control. Like if you want to put out content with audit trails, with revisions, permissions, like everything, like all that's already there. So, and then if you put AI on top of that, within these guardrails, built with the same vision to be, you know, auditable, to be compliant, then you'll have like a really high probability that the AI is exactly doing what you want, and that you get indeed the dream scenario where you get the work is done in the mailbox instead of 5 claims in the mailbox.
well, that's the future I am looking forward to. The good one, not the bad one, of
A
course.
good one.
We will see. We will see. Well, thank you, Dominic. Thank you for sharing your insights. Thank you for giving us a few examples. Where do people find you? Where do people read or hear more of you?
So I'm posting on LinkedIn, Dominic De Cooman, my name. I also have a website, dominicdecooman.com, where I post blog posts. Occasionally, I also would post something on Access as well. But I think the website and LinkedIn are the main channels. And then, of course, I also write a lot, which appears on the Dropsolid websites, on the .com, dropsolid.com, dropsolid.ai, and Dropsolid.io, where the DXP lives. So yeah, that's where most of the content appears. Yeah,
Thanks.
that's it.
Thanks. So, you know where to find Dominic. So, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for listening to us. If you want to hear more of episodes like this, tell us in the comments. If you do not like what we've done so far, tell us in the comments. If you're very ambiguous about what we've done so far, send us an email. That is going to help us distribute the extremes of your opinions. If you want to hear more, subscribe to our channel here on YouTube or here on Spotify or here on Apple Podcast or here somewhere else. And as always, thank you very much and bye bye.